so this one right here, some students like, oh, what the crap is going on with the y's on this? How can you have x's and y's? You can. It's just factoring by grouping, which you've noticed, right? When we factor by grouping, which we just did and have done, we pretty much ignore the letters, right? Like the first example we had, you could have factored out an x, but if you factored by grouping, it didn't matter that there was an x on all terms. So even though there's xy and then a y, none of that matters. What we're going to do is just go through this process, right? So I take the leading coefficient of 5, and then I multiply it by the last coefficient, in this case, -4. So 5 times -4 is -20, and what I need is 2 factors of -20 that add up to -8. I think, I don't know what the crap happened there, but let's try this again. So 1 and 20, thank you. So 1 and
20.
Sorry, -1 and 20, still no good. I mean, it still doesn't work, even though I did it wrong the first time. But 1 and -20 still doesn't work. What? It still doesn't work. So this is no good. And now we'll try, it's 2 and 10. Let's make this -2 and 10. Now it's +8, though, right? So all we got to do is reverse this to get our -8. Okay, so if I add those two together, I get -8. There are more factors, I just don't care about them because we found the one that works. So our -8xy, I'm going to split into a +2xy, and then also a -10xy. So you see, again, that these two terms add up to -8xy. We're splitting the -8xy. You could say, well, I want to split it between -1xy and -7xy. It just doesn't help you. Okay, so you could do whatever you want right here, but we want to do it with purpose, which is what we've just done. And now I'll rewrite the rest of this. I got 5x squared plus 2xy minus 10xy minus 4y squared. And we'll start factoring by grouping. So I'm going to group the first two.
Right.
And right here, it looks like I can only factor out an x from these two terms. So that leaves me with 5x and then a +2y. Now that, some students are like, how the crap can you have an x and a y? It doesn't matter. All I could do is factor out an x. So that's just what I'm left with. And that means also that I'm expecting this one over here. When I factor, I'm expecting a 5x plus 2y. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to factor from, it's a -10 and a -4y squared. I can factor out, first I'm going to factor out a negative, specifically because it's starting out as a negative there in front. And it looks like I can factor out a 2 and a y. So what am I left with? Well, -10 divided by 2 would have been 5. And then the -4 divided by -2 would have been +2. And you see it's already starting to match what I have there in purple. And then the first term we factored out a y, so it's left with the x. And then the second term we factored out one of the y, so we're still left with y. They match, which is, I don't know, kind of convenient. But now from these two terms, I'm going to factor out a 5x plus 2y. And then I'm left with an x and a -2y. Now again, since there's this kind of funky looking, I'd say, is there anything else I can factor out from these? No, there isn't. And you may have noticed that from the beginning. There was no greatest common factor to factor out from all three terms, which is what we need. It has to happen with all three. And again, if you reverse this, x plus 2y times the 5x plus 2y, sorry, let me start that over again. X minus 2y times the quantity 5x plus 2y. It's the same thing, it's just written in a different order. So let's do this one, right? So we'll factor out, I think I used purple, didn't I? From the first two, we can factor out a 5 and an x, which leaves me with just an x from the first term, and then -10 divided by 5 is 2. We took out the x, but we're left with the y. And you can see, right, we got the x minus 2y, which we have in the answer. There it is, right there, right? And then we can, from this second set, we can factor out, it looks like a +2 and a y, which means we're left with, from the first term, the x. And then -4 divided by 2 is 2, and we took out one of the y's, so we got -2y. So it definitely matches. We can factor out from those two an x minus 2y, and then we're left with, from the first term, 5x, and from the green, the +2y. So it is exactly the same, just in a different order, and that's fine.